Welcome to the Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Harper, and today's guest is Clint Murphy. Clint runs a company called Frame, which is a real estate development company that he is scaling, and he's on a path to build a massive, massive company. He left the world of finance and CFO, a very safe, good job, to then go out on his own and build something meaningful.
So even though I was a CFO, the biggest thing that people would say I was good at was building teams and hiring the best people and making them better, personally, professionally, financially, so that when they would go to another shop and they would look at the caliber of people on that finance team, they would say, this is entirely different than what we had at Mosaic. It's not the same caliber, not the same knowledge level in all areas of finance that they were working in. So
what I loved about this episode is we spent the majority of it talking about scaling our lives and what are the ways that we think about how we scale our lives in addition to our business. And what's most important is focusing on family and community. And we talk all about that. And he thinks about things through mindset, through thoughts, through psychology, and we really dig into all that. So enjoy the episode. I know you're going to love it. Clint, welcome to the Scaling Podcast, man. Glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to a conversation with you.
Yeah, me too. So you're in Vancouver. We were just talking about that. Have you lived in Vancouver your whole life or
most of
Canada?
my life? Most of my
Most
life.
of your life.
I've lived in across Canada. So I've lived in BC. I've lived in Saskatoon, which is a province called Saskatchewan, kind of similar to Montana. I've lived in Ontario, which a lot of people know from the Great Lakes, and I lived in Quebec, which is our French-speaking part of the country. And then I also lived 2 years in Bermuda. So those
Nice.
I've been a bit everywhere around here.
That's very cool. I actually proposed to my wife in Montreal.
Oh, you did? Okay, there you go.
Yeah. We flew out there and I did it right on. I'm assuming you've been there, Mont Royal.
Yeah.
Where it looks over. So that's where I proposed
Go
to
like
my wife.
tobogganing there as a kid.
Oh, did you? That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So, for the audience who doesn't know you, let's get started with just kind of your personal, professional background. How'd you get started in entrepreneurship? I think you were in finance before real estate. So would love the whole kind of trajectory, and then I'll probably ask questions as you kind of go into it and double click on some different things.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different than your average entrepreneur, starting much later in the game. So if I look at my path, once I graduated university with an accounting degree, I went to work for KPMG.
Okay.
I was there for 4 or 5 years, different cities, countries, etc. That's where I was when I was in Bermuda. And then I got an interesting offer for a company called Solder. They were then known as Molding and Millwork. Now they're Metri. They're one of the largest manufacturers, distributors of moldings in North America. Ended up working for them for 2 years in Ontario, running an MDF manufacturing facility. So no accounting, no finance, just run a business. And that was one of the coolest jobs I ever had. Really stuck with me. We wanted to start a family, wanted to come back to BC where our families were. So I came back to KPMG, did 3 more years there before I jumped into real estate. I jumped into real estate on the finance side, worked my way up to CFO with one of the larger developers in our city. And when you talk about scaling, you know, when I started there, maybe an average of 100 million a year in revenue. And by the time I left, we would have been well over 500 the year I left. So it was great to see that volume of scale while I was part of a business and being a large part of that as the CFO. So that was very fun. But ultimately decided, hey, I want to do this for myself. So about a year and a half ago, started up my own real estate development shop with a few past colleagues. There were 4 of us in total. We've since gone through some reorganization changes, and now there are 2 of us.
Okay. Very cool. So, similar similar background. I was working for a company, helping them grow. I grew them from 98 units to 323 units, increased the enterprise value of that company by tens of millions of dollars. And then 2.5 years ago, I guess it's like now 3 years ago, I was like, I can do this on my own, and I left. So totally can relate to that. I didn't know it was only a year and a half ago. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, somewhere in there where I started to get known a bit more, I launched a podcast, realized you can't grow these things without having another means of driving traffic. And so I jumped on social media. That happened about 5 years ago and learned pretty quickly over the course of 6 months how to grow on various social media channels. And so I think a lot of people thought that I had started my own business, let's say 5 or 6 years ago. But the first 3 to 4 years that I was on social media, I was still working by day as a CFO in a real estate company.
That's cool. So what were some of the things that you were talking about and writing about, and also what made you decide you wanted to start doing that?
The I was talking mostly about development, personal, professional, financial. And I had realized maybe a decade earlier that that's where my passion was. So that even though I was a CFO, the biggest thing that people would say I was good at was building teams and hiring the best people and making them better, personally, professionally, financially, so that when they would go to another shop and would look at the caliber of people on that finance team, they would say, this is entirely different than what we had at Mosaic. It's not the same caliber, not the same knowledge level in all areas of finance that they were working in. So that was what I took pride in as a CFO, and ultimately what I talked about. So the podcast, I interview authors in those spaces. So I read their books and then have a chat with them. And so then what do I write about? Everything I learned by reading those 50 books a year, and then in the 25 years of my career before that, because I'm a bit older than, like we said, the average person, and have
Yep.
always read pretty intensely. So over the last 25, 30 years, I've read a lot of personal development books, whether that's in the areas of personal growth, shadow work, stoicism, cognitive behavioral therapy. Like, those are all the areas that have helped me become a better person. And so I try to share that information with others to help them become better people.
That's awesome. What are some of the coolest things you've learned from some of those concepts you just mentioned? Like, what are some things that have stood out to you in the readings that you've done?
Yeah, the three that I think are the most important for everybody, and they've all come at pretty dark times in life, which tends to be when you have the most growth, right? Is out of the darkness comes the light. The first would be, and this is all about scaling. This is everything we're going to talk about. People don't realize how easy it is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People begin with the end in mind. That is the number one driver of your fate. Where do I want to go? What does it take to get there? Now I got to go do it. Right? So know what you want, understand what it takes, do the work day in, day out, consistently, and you'll get there. That's number one. Number two, I would say, is for a lot of people, understanding the monkey mind, right? Which is commonly referred to in Western philosophy, or Eastern philosophy, is just that whirling voice and noise in your head. And that's conscious thought, right? So you're like, what is my mind telling me? And realizing that your mind should be your servant, not your slave. Or you should be the master, not the slave to your mind. And so you should be able to be the one who says, this is what I want my mind to do, not listening to all. Generally, if you aren't already doing this, Aaron, for the average person, if you just spend a day and listen to your mind, 90% of what it says is negative. Someone says something to you, it misinterprets it. So learning to ignore that voice, shutting off. So I always refer to this as hardware, software, operating systems. Begin with the end in mind is your operating systems. It's the daily habits, the behaviors, the traits that we're going to use to be successful. What we're talking about right now is the software. So my mind, conscious thought, software. How do I reprogram my software to make the best decisions and to make logical, factual decisions based on actual information, not some rambling monkey mind that doesn't make any sense. Last one's hardware. And so a lot of people for hardware, that's going back to how we were programmed in childhood that we aren't even aware of. So generally, we can only get at the hardware through counseling, through psychoanalysis, through shadow work. And what we're looking for there, and why this is important to me for scaling a business and for scaling your life, is we need to be aware of the drivers of our behavior if we want to choose the right behavior for the right reasons. So you may be trying to grow your business to a massive number, and sometimes people say, well, why are you doing this, Aaron? Why isn't this enough? Why that? And deep down, maybe it's like my dad didn't say he loved me enough when I was a kid. So I'm trying to prove to him that I'm good enough. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's good motivation. But is that really why you want to not see your kids and not see your family?
Right.
Because you're trying to prove your love to, you're trying to get your dad to love you. So now your kids are like, where the fuck's my dad?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you know that's the driver, that doesn't mean you have to change your behavior. It just means now you're going to choose your behavior from a place of knowledge. So hardware, software, operating systems. If you fix those three things, there's very little you can't do in life.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you'll like this because I was a psychology major to start. I ended up switching to film and communication end of the junior year of college. So I love psychology. I've done a ton of personal work on myself over the years. I write a lot. I'm a very introspective person. So anyways, I'll share this. My wife, we just had our third baby four months ago.
Congrats.
Thank you. But so she went into preterm labor at 31 weeks and they reversed the labor. So we rushed to the hospital. They were and the doctor's it's my medicine versus your body. And the medicine ended up working. So the baby, long story short, our baby went to full term. He's super healthy. He came out like the biggest baby. But we had to spend she had to spend the last 8 weeks on bed rest.
Bed rest, yeah.
And 6 of those weeks, right after she went into preterm labor, were literally in the hospital. Oh. And I slept with her in the hospital every night for all those 6 weeks. And my mom came out and she moved in and my mother-in-law was here for a period of time. I was co-parenting with my mom. And it was during that time where I was okay, what matters right now? You know what I mean? Yeah. 100%. What matters, right? It's my family and the health of my family. And so I took a major step back from the business. And what I kind of realized in doing that, I actually wrote out while I was in the hospital, a new life operating manual. It was wild, Clint. I just was I had so much clarity and I was okay, my business is 300 units. What do I need to do? What's the purpose of growing it? I'm not saying I'm not going to grow it, but what sacrifices do I want to keep making, if any, in order to get it there? And what ended up happening, to make a very long story short, is I determined that I needed to hire a professional CEO immediately to run my company. And it was something that I had been working on and knew it was going to happen at some point. But it was that was made me realize I'm traveling every 2 weeks. Like my kids, my other two kids are like 4 and 2.
Yeah.
Like they're only gonna I'm only gonna be there everything. My wife and I are only gonna be there everything for like the next 10 years, maybe. And I'm like, what? Like the business is gonna keep growing.
Even.
Yeah, I mean it's like 6 years or something like that.
Well, it's so what you end up seeing is when your kids are about 8 to 9 years old, you change from being the best thing in their world simply for being their mom and dad to having to earn it. And it's around 8 or 9 where my son stopped looking me in the eye, stopped saying I love you. When I finally asked if it was because of work and how much I was away, I was just becoming CFO, so it was challenging.
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, like you're not here," and so it was.
Ooh.
Like that was like the biggest nut kick ever. And when I talked to the president of the company, like he pulled back on what I was doing, which was great. He said the same thing happened to him when his kids were the same age, and so he started. In some little things that help is like he'd wake up and he'd work in the morning and then have breakfast with the family and then go into the office. And then he'd leave at 5, spend the time with the family, and then work at night when the kids were in bed. So it was like, well, I'm there, I'm with them, and then like I make my schedule around them. But you're right, Aaron, is you don't have long. Like it's way shorter than we think. And then from 9 to 13, you earn it. And then like 13 on, they're like, I'm with my friends.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, and then
we got nothing, man.
It's wild. Yeah. So I did you read, so one of the things I read during that time when I was in the hospital was Sahil Bloom's book, The 5 Types of Wealth.
Yeah.
Did you read it?
I haven't been fully through it. I've seen a lot of the concepts over time through following Sahil and reading what he writes about.
Yeah.
But if you're going to bring out the one that's going to make me cry, it's the time with children graph.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I did all of what I'm talking about in ChatGPT, and I literally had the AI graph the time, like how many summers I have left, how many weekends. Like I went psychotic with it, and I was like, and so what I did is in doing that, I was like, okay, I have my new business plan, right? Like when you found a startup, you have to almost put everything aside in order to get it to scale. Like 100%. In order to get to a point where you can hire a professional CEO and you have a layer of management and the business is going to keep growing without you, like you got to sacrifice almost everything. And I just wasn't willing to continue to do that, to go from 30 million in system-wide sales to 150. Like it doesn't matter. My life isn't going to change dramatically, like no matter what. And so I hired a professional CEO, and he's an awesome asset. The franchisees love him. He's more qualified than I am to run the organization. And I stepped into a chairman of the board role in the last 4 months, and it's been great.
So when you made that decision, how long from decision to him in the role to you being comfortable guiding from that chairman position?
So I make decisions and move relatively quickly. Like once I have enough information, I'm like, okay, like this is the plan. So I always knew that at some point I was going to hire a professional CEO. And I had actually started interviewing for the role in October of last year.
Okay.
But I never knew what the right time was going to be, because replacing a CEO founder with another CEO is one of the most risky things you can do in a business.
Sure.
Now,
yeah.
I have the confidence that I can allocate resources properly to give him the tools he needs with the board that I have in order for him to be successful. But a lot of founders are just like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to get out. I'll sell the company or something like that. And my thought was, we've still got a long way to go. And if I could find someone great. But it was that experience and the needs of the business at that point that I wasn't able to meet, because I was living in the hospital and I was driving the kids back and forth. Like I wasn't able to meet the demands of being the block and tackle CEO. And it was that made me realize okay, I need to do this. So to answer your question, it was about like I made the decision, and about probably 6 to 7 weeks later, maybe, I had him hired. I had done a professional analysis of him, an executive assessment, personality exams, everything like that. But I had interviewed a bunch of people in the past prior to it, so I kind of knew what I was looking for. And then stepped into a chairman of the board role. I have 2 meetings with him per week that are, or excuse me, per month that are an hour long. And I set, he gives me what he wants to do. We set initiatives of what right for the company for that quarter. And I'm out of any kind of operational responsibilities in the business.
And how does it feel?
It felt really weird at the beginning, and I'll tell you why. Like a lot of what we do, and you can tell, like I can nerd out about this like life value stuff, and I can tell you can as well. Like we become human doings instead of human beings a lot of the time. Like people ask like, what do you do versus like, what do you like? Or like, it's like, what do you do? And then they ascribe this like value to what you do based upon their experiences. And so what I really wanted to do was make sure that I wasn't my business. Not only like the business didn't need me to run, but like my identity isn't the business. Exactly. My identity. Yeah. And so that has been something that I've done a lot of personal work around of like, what are all these things that I am? And so in that report that I created, that it's like a 47-page, there's like a table of contents of all these things that like make up my whole life. And I was like, oh, the business is only one small part of who I am. And so I've been allocating my own resources, which is my time, my money, my attention towards the things in my life that are realistically going to give a better return on investment when I'm 50, 60, 70 years old. Because I'm not going to look back and be like, oh, remember that time when I went from 10 million in revenue to 20 million in revenue? Like, I'm going to be like, remember those summers that I had with my kids? Remember those friends trips that I took that were awesome, that I talk about with my friends for, all the time? Like, so investing in relationships, community building out here in Nashville. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you? I love talking to people who think like this. So tell me what your thoughts are.
It's super relevant and prevalent right now in my life because my oldest son is graduating high school this year. And he quite likely, every day it changes with him, but quite likely he'll end up playing college football here in Canada, and more likely than not, he'll end up back in an eastern province. So the equivalent, of being in California for me and your kids now somewhere between New York and Rhode Island, right? And you're like, okay, really well, if you end up in New York, I can get straight flights. I can see you once a month. You can fly back here. But fuck, if you end up in Rhode Island, like, I got a connecting flights, and like I'm maybe going to come out once a quarter, and you maybe come out once every 6 months. So it's really saying, like, how do I make sure that I invest as much time as possible in his life to the extent that he wants me in it while he's here for the next year? And his younger brother, who's 3 years younger than him, how do I put more time into him than I did his brother at the same age? Right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that means, like, what do they like? And I'll like that. Mm-hmm. It also means, like, my oldest son, when he's in football, it's only football. So he's in right now, he's like practicing 2 or 3 hours a day, every day. So like when he's done that, he comes home, he can barely walk, he eats, he lays down. When football season ends, like he might text me at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday and be like, hey, Dad, do you want to play pickleball? Because that's the only thing he'll let me do with him.
Oh, wow.
And I'll be at work and I'll like look at my partner. It's sunny out. I got a text from my son and I'll be like, gotta go. And I just go home, change into my shorts, meet him at the pickleball courts, and
Yeah.
play pickleball with him. He enjoys it. He enjoys playing with me. He loves playing against me. And so it's like I will drop whatever I need to do to be with him.
Yeah.
The other thing to your point is, how do you create those lasting memories with them, but also for you, right?
Yep.
And one of the ones that I loved was this summer when we went up to our cottage. He brought 7 of his closest friends with him
That's cool.
for a week. So we had our 2 boys, 7. We had like 9 boys, 17 years old, in the cottage for a week. Like, it was incredible seeing the bond that these all boys were having, because they're like super close friends. They're in grade 12. This is their last summer before they all go somewhere. We're hoping we can get them all up there next summer before they go to college, Aaron. But it's creating that memory for them, which we're a part of, but on the outside. And then also starting to say, you're at the different part of the cycle, but remembering with your wife, when they're out of the house, who are you and who am I and how do we relate to each other? Because before we had kids, we were one thing, right? It was you and me. We had our things and we had our together thing. Like for us, we went to a lot of movies. We did like we would walk, we would travel. Like that was our thing. But then we had kids. And for 17, 18 years, the kids are the thing while you're building the business. So like the business is the thing. Your kids are the thing. What becomes not the thing is the two of you.
Right.
So as you start to approach that graph where the children are going, that's also where you start to see a lot of divorce. Because the kids are gone, and then you have these 2 strangers who look at each other and say like, well, it's been great being a roommate for the last 20 years, but I think I'm done. I'm like, going to go find a partner. Like, I don't want a roommate, and I don't recognize you. I don't know if I like you anymore. You don't know if you like me. We have no shared interests. So a big part of life right now, Aaron, is continuously having those conversations with my wife to say, like, who are we alone? Who are we together? How do we relate to each other? And what do we want when the kids are gone?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do we want our life to look like? My goal is very similar to what you're talking about, right? Is with my partner, I want to scale the business to a certain level. I then want to say, okay, life cycle of real estate companies. When you start, pure development. You don't have enough capital to hold anything. So you build it, you sell it, you have capital partners who are putting a lot of the money in. That's how you scale. Other people's money helping you grow. You get to the point where you need less of other people's money. So you're keeping more of the profit. All of a sudden, you have excess capital. You start to hold properties, not sell them all. So every 5th project, you say, hey, maybe we keep this one. Okay. Eventually, you start to say, well, why would we sell anything? That's crazy. Like, we go through all this 4 years of headache, and then we give it away. And then over the next 20 years, it doubles or triples in value. Like, why don't we just hold these forever? So that happens. And then you do that. And then you're printing enough cash that you start to lend to other young developers. Almost every large real estate development company or capital provider has gone through that cycle. And people who have been in the business for 50, 60 years, they'll look at you and say, well, why do you ever sell any of your properties? And you look at them and you're like, well, I have no capital. Like, I build it, I sell it, I take the profit, I do it again. And I'm trying to build the capital. But that's to say, I want to work our way over the next 20 years through that life cycle. And get to the point where I can say, okay, now we have capital, we have income property base, we have a steady business of producing projects that we sell, that we generate profit, and we have money that we're investing in other young developers. Now that we're there, can I move from being a day-to-day manager and leader in the business to a chair role? To helping guide the business as an active shareholder, not as an active manager. So that's the path. How do I scale the business over the next 10 to 20 years to do that? And while doing that, how do I maintain and build on a strong relationship with my wife? And in an ideal world, get my children into the business.
Ooh, I like that.
That's me.
That's really cool. So, how do your kids feel about that plan? Have you brought it up to them?
Yeah, so what I'm talking about with the oldest one is in this, I think a lot of people that are listening to the podcast will identify, especially when you talked about the franchise model. A lot of people are starting to look at trades and starting to look at franchises in the trades. Power washing businesses, you wouldn't actually have thought of like franchising that like 20 years ago, right? Like that probably wouldn't have
Right.
been a path. So what I've said to my oldest son is, hey, look, go do your football thing. Like, treat that 4 years of college as fun and a learning experience. Like, if you study business, great, do your thing. But knowing you as a personality, knowing you as like a skill set type of guy, and knowing where AI is going, when you're done that, come back here, go to trade school, study construction management, get a job with one of the best construction companies here in the city. I know some of them, like I know some of the
Yeah.
people at them. Do that for 5 to 10 years, and then you either like it and you want to keep doing it, or you want to start your own construction business, or you come work for me and run construction in our develop, like be a part of the construction team in our business. So it's like that's a way to either get into business with me or to start your own business and I'll bankroll you.
Yep.
Right? By that
Yep.
point in time, I should have enough capital that I'm like, yeah, you want to start a business? Let's roll. Here's some
Yeah.
capital. I'll help you structure it, build it. Like the skill set that you and I have in doing it on our own and doing it for others over the last 25 years. Yeah, son, like I can help you do that. Like you just figure out the actual construction. I'll build your back office, build your team, and help you scale. Right?
Yeah.
And then with
Yep.
the youngest guy, figuring out something similar, more on the development architecture side, less on the construction, like great artists, great skills that way,
He's a lot more
a
creative
lot more
and
creative. So it's like, hey, let's guide you that way. Let's start to think of architecture early and think of what that could look like. And then you've got one son on the construction side, one son on the development side. Yeah.
I love that. And what are you doing actively to bring your wife into kind of some of your shared interests, whether it's business or whether, like, what are some of the things you do there?
Some of the things, and I want to improve this. Some of the things will be, I just messaged her a day or so ago, and we used to do this pre-COVID, and it kind of fell off. Said somewhere in the next year we should take a trip together, and without the kids, and just connect, because then you have like a week or 2 weeks where you're in a different country. You're just having conversations one to one every day. You're going for walks, doing tours, eating great meals, and you're having conversation. Jillian Johnsrud, who wrote a book called Retire Often. I just had her on the podcast last week, and she was telling me about a book that impacted her when she was younger. And basically, every year, she kind of has like an annual retreat with her husband. And there's this concept of like be, no, do. It's like, who do we want to be? Like, what do we want to do? What do we want to be known for? That type of thinking. And I'd always had this idea, Aaron, of the two of us going in these trips where we go away each year. I mean, we do have our holding companies. If we talk business while we're there, business, then there's some tax
Yeah.
deductions to it.
Yeah.
But
Sure,
but you
sure.
actually do that, right? You treat that time away as a family business retreat. So it's like, what's our family plan for the next year? What do we want to achieve? What do we want the kids to achieve? How do we want to set them up for success and steward that? And where do we want to get to as a couple? what are some of the problems we have with each other? What are some of the things we love and want to see more of? You just have those deep, meaningful conversations that when you were talking about the personal work you were doing earlier, that's a lot of the personal work you're doing on yourself. What personal work can we do together on each other, like together? Like for you, how long have you been married now? And what does that look like for you in building, like making that relationship stronger, especially with three
Yep.
kids in the house now?
Yeah. So Sarah and I, we have been married now 6 years. Last year we did exactly what you're talking about. We went to Italy together.
Nice.
We were there for 8 days and we just stayed in Florence. So one of the things we like to do when we travel is like not go somewhere new every 2 to 3 days, even though theoretically I could go to Sicily, I could go to this and that. We're just like, let's go somewhere where we really want to know. Let's find places that we like and let's just like stay.
Yes.
And so her and I got married in Greece. We got engaged in Montreal. So travel is a big part of it. Now, with kids, it has completely turned that upside down on its head. So then it's like, how do we find these things? So this year we started doing a date every Sunday. So we have a part-time nanny that will come for a weekend to cover the two youngest, and we'll bring the two oldest, and we'll bring the youngest with us because he's 3.5 months old. But we are certainly in that kind of passing ships stage right now.
Yeah.
We would normally, when the kids are, we would be able to sit with each other at night and watch a TV show together and talk about what we like about the TV show and this and that. And like right now, like I finish work at like 5:30. I make dinner. We get the kids to bed by 7:30, and then I take the newborn. And well, he's 3.5 months old, but I still consider him a newborn. And Sarah then goes and sleeps so that she could get that first window.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I
'cause
keep
she's gotta wake up.
she's got to wake up throughout the night, so
Yeah.
I stay up with him until 11:30 or midnight, and then we kind of do it all over again. But what I decided this year is I'm going to do everything in my power to make us a ski family. So my wife and I grew up snowboarding. She grew up skiing. She grew up in northern Michigan and was like on the ski team in high school. She was in the ski club in college at Notre Dame. So she can haul down the mountain. Like I'm trying to keep up with her. But since we've had babies, like we haven't skied together, right? And it just hasn't been able to. And I ski for business trips and stuff like that for snowboard for business trips each year. So I was like, we're going to make this a priority, even with young kids, and we're going to do at least 1 or 2 ski trips per year. So in 2 months, we're going to Snowbird in Utah, and we're bringing my mother-in-law with us, so that hopefully Sarah and I will be able to get away for maybe an hour or two a day and go ski together. Even if we can't, because we've got a newborn and 2 toddlers, like just being on the trip, being near the slopes, and like making that a priority for us as a family to do together, because I want to always ski. Like I want my kids to love skiing so that when they come back from college, like we go do that. Just like you and your son with pickleball. Like I can't think of a better way to like create a shared interest than make us be a ski family. And obviously that's expensive. It's not cheap to do this kind of stuff, but next year we're gonna do Park City, and that'll be our second kind of ski trip that we're gonna do as a family. So I just kind of trying to say, how can we spend enjoyable moments together that we remember for forever, and how do we create that environment and where we can do that?
And do you have any local hills that are like pretty good ski? Like you've got to try. Like Nashville's pretty flat, right? Like you're traveling to ski.
Yeah, so fortunately it's a direct flight into Salt Lake.
Okay.
And you can go from Salt Lake City and be on a world-class mountain within anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, but you still have to pack the kids up and get
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
flight and do that.
You're flying to do it. You're not jumping in the car. Like we're
It's
blessed
not
here
doable.
with 3 local mountains that are good, and then Whistler being like a world class resort is like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. So
Which is
yeah,
incredible.
pretty lucky. And so skiing as
Do
a
you
family
guys
is beautiful.
ski family as a family by chance or no?
We same thing. We tried to. It was a goal, and everybody got skis. I converted from like a snowboarder to a skier because I was like, well, if you guys are all gonna learn, like I'm not gonna snowboard and like be bored. So I did it. Wife and oldest didn't really like it. Youngest did. So he and I would go periodically. One of the biggest challenges is ski season is a big conflictor with hockey season. And
Oh.
I coach his hockey team. And so he's
Got
always
it.
like, hey, Dad, when are we going to go skiing? And it's like, well, son, like you got hockey at 5 o'clock on a Saturday. Generally, Saturday is the day we would like drive up to the ski hill. Are we going to
Yeah.
drive to the ski hill, ski, rush home to get to the hockey? Like, it just stopped making sense. But he said
Yeah.
the little guy said he's going to try out for his school ski team this year. So we'll see how that
Oh,
goes.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, but I mean, you have to be intentional
100%.
about it. And if you go, like, as entrepreneurs, I think it's very easy for us to say, well, the business needs X, Y, and Z, and it's very clear, and I can fix that because I know, or at least I have a thesis around, and like, and then there's like this feedback loop of like, that felt good because I figured out that thing, and the business grew as a result, and like, and so you can get kind of like almost addicted to that. And the reality of it is like, if I'm going to be 60 years old, I'm going to look back on my life. It's like, it's probably harder to invest time in things that maybe don't give you that immediate kind of gratification of like solving a business problem and making more money. Like for example, planning a ski trip that may or may not work out, and who knows, it could be a disaster and we could waste a ton of money. But the thought is to try to like make these meaningful times so that we can share in those moments together.
I mean, it comes back, like if you go back to earlier in the conversation when we were talking about begin with the end in mind, it's the same thing with your family as it is with the business. Mm-hmm. Like my goal is tight, united family when you're older and sharing activities. Your kids now, how can we start to create that? What if we become a ski family and you love skiing so that in 20 years we ski together? Okay, my way to solve that is I'm going to buy the ski equipment, I'm going to book a flight, we're going to go skiing. And if we do that from the time you're like 3 till 13, you're probably going to love skiing.
Yep.
And when you're 23, I'll get to hang out with you. Right? And someone posted about that graph, time with children. Mm-hmm. And my reply to it was, there are ways to change that graph, and that's what I'm working on, and that's what you're working on.
Yeah.
You doing that skiing experience with your kids right now is a way to change it so you have more time with them. Me trying to get my kids involved in the business means that I would see them for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is son goes back east to school and he ends up in your situation, because that's what happens. Yeah. He meets a girl, mm-hmm. And very rarely does the girl move for the guy. It's usually the guy moving for the girl, because
exactly.
When you have a family, a woman wants to be close to her parents more than a guy wants to be close to his parents. It's just human nature. And so almost always the guy moves for the girl. And so if my son ends up moving back east, I never see him again, right? So that's a huge fear. But if I can get him in the business and I can scale the business to the point where he wants to be a part of it and he can add value to it so it makes sense for him to be a part of it, then you see him for the rest of your life. If you're willing, because you've built a business and you financially can, even when your kids are older, say to them, hey, we're going to do our annual ski trip to Vail in over between Christmas and New Year's. I can cover a flight for you and your girlfriend, or you and your boyfriend, depending on whatever it
Yeah.
is. Then that gives them permission to come. And one of the founders of the real estate company I was at, one of the things he did with his two older daughters was, if he and his wife were going to France, as an example, they would say, "Hey, we'll pay for flights for you and your partner. We'll, like, all expense covered on the trip. Our only rule is one dinner a night. Other than that, you two go do whatever you want. Like, you go shop, you go, like, you don't have to spend any time with us. Just meet us for dinner every night." And
I love that.
and I'll pay for dinner, right? Like, so we'll eat at
Yeah.
like kick-ass nice restaurants in a foreign country. Like, you'll fucking Instagram them to your friends. You'll
Yep.
be with your partner. And then other than that, like, all expense paid trip to Europe. So that's an opportunity to spend that week and to have quality time. So how do you use the business to build the wealth to make that graph less of a reality?
Yeah. I mean, so first, did you ever read Dan Martell's book?
Yeah, he was on the podcast. Buy Back Your Time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
that was
that
awesome.
book. That's awesome. I absolutely loved that book because it made me think about, like, the buyback principle, which is don't hire to grow your business, hire to buy back your time.
100%.
Because you're going to be the one that knows how to grow your business best. And if you have more time on your calendar to think about ways to grow the business, then the business is going to grow more. But it wasn't like something you think about, right? Like, I was the salesperson for my company for the first 160 units, right? Like, and so the thought process would be, okay, I'm going to hire this person to handle ops or this person to do this. But the reality of it is in order for us to get the business where it needs to go, I need to fire myself as a salesperson so that I could buy my time back. And that's going to be expensive because building a sales team is expensive. But then when I did that, I was like, oh, I have more time. Oh, I'm spending a lot of time in email. I need to hire an executive assistant so that I'm not my own executive assistant. So I hire an executive assistant. She's in my email. I don't check it unless she tells me. Oh, wow, I got more time back on my calendar. And so it was like, it just made me think of, how do I free up my time? And time is our most valuable asset. Like, it is, we only have so many finite resources. This was another nerdy thing I did while I was in the hospital with my wife. Like, what are the finite resources? It's like attention, time, like, there's only a handful of them, like,
Yeah.
money's
Like,
not finite because
truly, like, people think money, but it's not.
it's not,
It's
it's time, it's attention. It's like social capital is a finite resource. Goodwill, I think, is a finite resource. Anyways, there's like only a few of them that you can control. Energy is a finite resource. Like, you only have so much energy in a day. And so it's like, where am I going to spend that? And so when I get my time back, then I can determine where I want to spend it.
Yes.
And I'm involved in communities in Nashville. I'm Jewish, so I'm a member of the Jewish community. I have kind of a spiritual community that I'm a part of with men, and I run a men's group and all these different things. And so I'm like, how do I invest more of my newfound resource, because I'm not spending as much of it in the business. So this newfound resource that I have, how am I going to allocate it differently? And how can I then build these other elements of wealth in my life to then what'll end up happening is I'll grow as an individual. And then as a result of me growing as an individual, I'll have more clarity in the business and be able to provide more resources to my executive team and my CEO. And then, like, and so it's like, now I think about my business as like the working not in the business, on the business. I think of it as like working on the entrepreneur versus in the entrepreneur kind of thing. Like the same idea of like, how do I become the person that is the chairman of the board of a $250 million company while not losing all of these other great things in my life that I've worked so hard for? Not only not losing them, but like enhancing them dramatically. And so, but without time, you can't do those types of things. You don't have the space to think.
Yeah, and it's a combination of time and foresight to think through the right way to approach that. And it reminds me of a time I had a young woman who worked for me, and she was one of the most capable, brightest, hardest working people I ever worked with. And one of the things she said to me was, "Hey, I might have to like leave you soon. Like, I'm gonna outgrow you." And my comment to her, Aaron, was, "You will never outgrow me." And for the average listener, they may say, "Well, that's a really cocky statement." Why it's not a cocky statement is very few people are willing to do what you just talked about, which is a recognition that for the rest of my life, I need to continue to work on myself and develop myself to be an even better version of myself, especially as a business owner.
Yeah.
Because if I want that business to grow, I need to grow. If I want to hire the best people, I need to be someone they can look up to, who can teach them, who can guide them, who can help them be better. And so the comment to her wasn't that I didn't think she would become better. It's that I didn't think she would invest more time, energy, money into her personal and professional growth as I would over that next 10 years. When I left as CFO, she took over my role, right? So we were together probably 14 years across 3 companies, and ultimately she ended up in that top seat. But it was giving her the realization, hey, don't worry, there's always going to be something to teach you. And it's by doing the things that you're talking about.
So in your content that you create, you talk about a lot of this stuff. So what are some of the things that you do to help people realize it? And like, how does that help your other business? And I know we've just been talking about life stuff so much. You got a real estate business. I'd love to learn more about that. But how do you kind of like make those two things work together?
It's one of the things that'll jump out at you is like I was in men's work for a couple of years as well with a group out here called Arca Brotherhood, which also has branches down in the U.S. And for the first year was a member, second year ran a group, and a big realization that I had in that was that you have to bring shadows into the light. And for those who are listening who may not have been in men's work like you're talking about with your group, what we're talking about is when you see behavior that isn't serving another person, you tell them, right? Have that conversation. And so in my business, I think one of the things that I became good at as a CFO and now as a business leader is having the hard conversations. So if your partner is being passive aggressive and they don't know that they're passive aggressive, and nobody likes when someone's passive aggressive, just saying, hey, like, why are you being passive aggressive? Let's just have a conversation. Like, you want me to do something? Just tell me that. Don't be like, don't send some wishy-washy passive aggressive email to me. Just be like, hey, can you do this? And I'll go do it. Like, but they may not know that that's their behavior because no one's ever told them. And then you have that conversation and the person across from you says, well, why has no one told me that in 20 years? You're like, I don't know, because people are afraid of conflict. Like, this is what I see. When you send emails to people, you say this. When you do this, you're not being like, you're so craving of the other person liking you that you're not willing to push people. And in our business, in real estate development, the number one thing you always have to be doing is pushing. Like it's like constantly pushing a boulder up. Who's that guy in the Bible who was pushing the boulder, stuck pushing the boulder up the hill
Oh,
into
is
perpetuity?
it
Uh,
Joseph or I don't
I
know.
forget. But
Yeah.
the like, no one likes you. No one wants their area to be like, everyone says we need more homes, we have a housing crisis. No one wants you to build a fucking house beside them. Right? Like
Hmm.
it's a disaster. So you always have to be battling. So I'd say for me in the business, the number one skill set that I'm bringing is I've been in shops that have scaled up, and same as you. Now I'm taking that knowledge to scale us up. So the first thing in the early days, like you said, you're kind of doing everything like market, like I'm managing an external marketing and sales team. I do the finance, accounting, capital, investor relations, land acquisitions, and my partner oversees development and construction. And there's only so many projects where you can do all of those things and be successful. So, like, the
Hmm.
first people we have to hire are he needs a development coordinator right out, like, early to take all the administration away, right? So that he can focus on
Yep.
pushing the city, pushing the municipalities, working with the consultants, working with the designers to get us good product that will sell, well designed, and not miss anything. Need to free up his time. Super valuable. Then I need to free up probably a controller to take away the finance, the accounting, the draw process, like all the admin side of what I do. Eventually, probably either someone to lead marketing and sales, or either a partner or a great person on the team. And then I should focus on land acquisitions, capital raising, and in investment partners, right? Because to scale a real estate development shop, those are the three things you need. You need land, you need investors, and you need capital partners. So if I can focus all my time on those three things, we will be successful, right? Two things. If I can focus all my time on bringing in good sites, investment partners, and then banks, and my partner can focus all his time on designing the right product in the right locations for the right buyer, you're set up for success into perpetuity. But we have to your point, we have to free up our time to focus on those key things and then
Yeah.
build the team around them to make sure that you can deliver.
And so what's your primary asset class that you
We
guys
do
invest in?
we do for sale. A lot of people are referring to it. The buzzword you'll hear is missing middle. So
Okay.
it's, it's, you're not going to the outskirts in the burbs in Nashville. You're going like right in the core,
Okay.
and you're like within 15 minutes, ideally even less, of downtown, like of where everybody wants to live, and you're knocking out 3 single family homes and putting up 15 townhomes, right? So
Okay.
it's like densification of already great neighborhoods. So, as an
Got it.
example, like here in Vancouver, I live in a townhouse right in the middle of a city. I have 2 sites under contract. I walk out my front door, they're across the street,
Okay.
right? So it's like, well, how do you know that's a good area? It's like, well, fuck it, like I bought my place like across the
Okay. I
road.
live here. Yeah.
Well, what type of floor plan are you going to do? I'm like, I'm pretty much going to copy my floor plan because it's like I got a family of 4 in here. It's like single family living. Most row homes are like narrow. This is 21 feet wide. So it's more
Hmm.
like a single family home. We like
Right.
it. Another family will like it. Probably going to copy it. So it's like, like that's the type of product we do. So terms that people are using nowadays, like multiplex, which is kind of like, whether it's a duplex, triplex, fourplex, fiveplex, or it's a fourplex with a carriage house and back on the laneway. So you get 5 units on one single family lot. So you buy a house,
Got it.
knock it down, build 5 units, sell them. No,
Okay.
and we manage projects for others there. And that's a key point on the scaling journey. For a lot of businesses that people are going to try to scale, some of them allow cash flow early. Others, cash flow takes time. Real estate development, cash flow takes time. Your first project could take 4 years. So if it's a for sale project, you're putting money in, you're not getting it back for 4 or 5 years. So
Yeah.
how do you sustain operations through that period? One, you have fee income on your own projects, so you pay yourself a
Yep.
fee. Number two is what we refer to as managed services for others. So we provide what we would refer to as integrated real estate services for landowners who don't have real estate development teams of their own. So they'll, as an example, and that's where we're doing rentals. So we're managing the development of a 5-story wood frame rental building for someone. We're managing the development of a 25-story concrete rental tower for another group. We earn fee income, and we can pay ourselves a salary through that fee income. My preference in the first decade of the company is that 40 to 60% of our business is managed service for
because
other
that
people.
pays you immediately.
That pays us immediately and allows us to grow the team, hire good people. And if every person we like, I just like, you're probably similar to me in this. Like, I run the numbers and I look at it and say, if I hire a person, and generally the way metrics are going, a person can handle like 3 projects, right? So if I hire a person and even if it was only 40%, so like one of their 3 projects is for someone else, the fee income that generates, and let's say the fee income that generates covers off the development manager, the development coordinator, and the project accountant, covers off their salaries.
Yep.
The other 2 projects that those 3 people are working on, for us, are now profit.
Got it. Yep.
So it's like if we can keep 40% of our business work for others, that generates the revenues to build the team to allow us to work on our own projects, right? So
Yeah.
so it keeps the engine running and allows you to ramp up. A lot of the not a lot, some of the groups that I really admire here in Vancouver, one of them, like if you looked into these guys, it's an absolutely great success story. For like 30, 40 years, they were known primarily as a construction company. And the sons of the founder got involved in the business. Now you look at what they're doing. They're one of the largest developers in the city. They're one of the becoming quickly over the next 10 years, they'll be one of the largest landlords in the city. And that all came out of, we're doing construction for others. That generates income that we can take a shot now and again on our own site to eventually, we've got like 20 sites on the go that are ours, and we have 30 to 40 sites that are for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 3 divisions. We have construction for third parties. We have our own development for sale business and income business. And we have a property management business, because now we've managed to build up enough of a portfolio and gained experience in how to manage it for ourselves that we're willing to also manage for third parties. That's insane. They've done that in less than 2 generations.
Wow. That's wild. So your trajectory in growing this business is what, 15, 20 years to get to that is kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think within 7 years, we can get to the point where we're doing 50 to 100 million a year in revenue, year in, year out, consistently. Which, if we're doing it in the city, would mean that we're selling somewhere between 25 and 50 homes a year. Which,
Okay.
If we're doing like those multiplex projects, which are 5 homes on a lot, the way we're designing them, that's 5 to 10 projects a year, right?
Okay.
So it's getting to that scale. then that generates the scale. If you're doing that type of revenue, eventually you have excess cash. And it's the way I look at it, the way I'd love to do it, and the way my partner and I have talked about it over time. A lot of young people will come work for you in development, and they'll generally want to start their own business. They'll think, "Hey, I'm entrepreneurial. I know how to do it. I can do it." A lot of development companies will be like, "Well, you're not gonna be a partner, so so sad, too bad, see you later." I'd rather do a little bit more of an approach where, and you've probably seen this concept even with Moses Kagan on Twitter, where in real estate development, he talks about a business they have called Reseed, where they start up, help young entrepreneurs in real estate start their businesses. So if I have someone who's worked for me for 5 to 10 years, trained them, taught them, believe in them, and they're like, "Hey, I don't think I can continue to grow my wealth and be successful the way I want to here," well then why don't you start your own shop and we'll be your seed capital?
Yeah.
Right? And so almost dare I say, a franchise model.
Dare I say? I mean, you got to find ways to scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, for us to get to the size that we are now, if we did not franchise, A, may not be possible ever. B, if it was possible, it would take a very, very long time. And the franchisees business model is very similar in this, our business model is very similar in the sense, well, the franchisee's local location is a different business model than the franchisor's location, but the franchisee's local location is 60 to 70% commercial business, which takes longer to get paid on, longer sales cycles to close. But similar to you having that quick cash flow, the residential is maybe lower margin, but it pays the bills. And so if we have 30 to 40% of our business being residential, now we have diversity in customer concentration, right? So there's not a key customer risk where a $250,000 corporate account loses and then the business isn't worth anything. But then you use the cash from these bigger commercial jobs to then buy more territories and buy more trucks and kind of scale the business. So very familiar with that.
And that is, to your point, that is one area that you'd have to think about over time is that young person who you've now said, and similar to a franchise, it would be like, "Hey, we'll provide you capital, we'll help you, we'll deal with the banks, we'll do your full back office. You just manage development and construction and marketing and sales of these new projects. And if you want to use our marketing and sales services, we could do that for a fee too," right? But where you run into a challenge is you don't have that franchise geographic barrier. It's that person's probably going to want to build homes in the exact spot we are. Now, I think what you'd have at that point, by the time that became an issue, Aaron, likely we're not doing onesies and twosies of single family homes. If we're a decade from now, we're probably doing wood frame rental apartment buildings, concrete bigger, more substantial sites, 30 townhomes, not 5-unit infill project. And that young person's probably going to want to start in that 5-unit infill project. So they're likely going to start where you started and not be looking at the sites that you're looking at because they can't afford them at that part of their life cycle. And that part of the business can be successful because that's how you've gotten to where you are. So you say, "Hey, I'll help you get to where I am and I'll own a piece of the business." Everybody wins.
Yeah. Could you franchise that, or are there would it not work?
You probably could, or you just carve off a piece of your business. No one needs to know that these multiplex, let's say it's under the Frame banner, no one needs to know that it's a subsidiary of Frame that Frame owns 25% of, and these young entrepreneurial people own 75% of, or 50-50, whatever it is, right?
Whatever it is, yeah.
Maybe it's 50-50, and then they have the right to buy out 25% of it after a certain return, and then 25% rides for like, helping get it. Like whatever it is, you design it, right? No one needs to know that it's not frame. That can be under. So in that way, I guess
Yeah.
you kind of are a franchise, right? Like they actually own that business that uses the trademark and
Yeah.
uses the brand, but isn't 100% owned by the brand. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that would be even. I mean, because they're if you're a decade, 20 years in, there's power to the brand. Why not have 5 of those? Why not have 10 of those? So those
Well,
great young people don't have to leave.
that's kind of what I'm thinking is like, these people can continue to work on your team and then they pay you a royalty for using the frame and the brand and this and that. You get to experience less risk as the franchisor because you earn a royalty versus owning 25% of their potential mistakes, right? Because like they're going to make mistakes in business. Like, so if you own 25% of their business as like a partner and they make mistakes because they're running it, that could come back and mess up your larger business.
That's right.
Which you don't want to do because you're building concrete buildings and massive projects and you've built 10 to 20 years up of that experience. But franchising is great because if you have a model that works and it works and you're not going to do those deals anyways, then you could say, hey, we're going to franchise this. You're going to pay us 10% of gross and we're going to get a fee for doing marketing and sales and we're going to get a fee for doing accounting and back office and we're going to get a fee and then all of a sudden now you don't have any risk in owning those properties, but they have all the support they need and it just adds additional cash flow to your bottom line, which then allows you to go buy bigger properties and do all the things that you want to do with your business.
100%, and making sure that as they scale, the big thing in development is figuring out the guarantees, right? So making sure
Yeah.
that however you structure it, you're not fully on the hook for their mistakes and failures. There's limited recourse, right? And if we can have limited recourse, that young person, if they're entrepreneurial enough, is going to leave and start up their own development company anyway.
Right.
Why not own a piece
So
of
it's
it?
like, how do you control it and own a piece of it and have it underneath the whole banner?
In a mutually beneficial
It's
way.
great.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's great.
That-
I think it's absolutely. I mean, this is like my world. So when and if that time comes and you want to talk about any of that stuff, and if there's any way I could be helpful, I absolutely love the franchise business model. And I think when it's done the right way, you create opportunity on both sides that can transform the lives of people and create opportunities nationwide. I mean, for us to get to 35 states and 326 units in with 92 different franchise owners in a 2-year period, it wouldn't happen. There'd be no way for that to happen unless I franchised. Period. End of story.
What do you think? Like in a 2-year period, that's super fast. What was the biggest lever to getting that much buy-in from franchisees? I mean,
Yeah.
how many of the trucks or units are franchise owned versus franchisees? And on average, how many units does each franchisee own?
So there's 92 owners that own 326 units. So about 3.36 units roughly per franchise owner. Each unit will in the next 18 months be obligated to be opened with a power washing truck. So they always open with one truck and then they kind of scale from there. So we have 84 of the franchisees open, 84 out of the 92, and we have a total of 118 trucks on the road. So, I mean, they're growing their local business with the support of my C-suite of executives plus the 24 team members that support them. But it is very much their business to go out and grow. I always say this, like it's like if I could grow your business for you, we wouldn't franchise. We would just keep the whole economic upside of the business, and we wouldn't take a royalty, and we would just run the business that way. But this is your business to go grow. We're going to tell you exactly how to do it. We're going to tell you where to allocate capital. We're going to have a call center that's going to answer the calls. We got marketing companies you're going to spend money with. We have accounting, like we have all the stuff. You got to go out and execute. And, we'll probably max out at somewhere around 800 to 900 units nationwide, probably. And I presume we will go into Canada probably mid to late next year.
Nice.
Because that's easy to just drive the trucks across the border.
Getting harder. Lots of interesting
That's
times.
true. That is true. It is getting harder, but it's certainly not as hard as like figuring out a whole new supplier in the UK, and all of a sudden we're like building trucks from here. So I think that getting the buy-in from franchisees, to answer your question, was there's a lot of like we're in the right place at the right time. If you think back to like the early 2000s, there was the junk business was in a very similar position to where the power washing business is today. There was not sophistication. And then Brian Scudamore from, Canada, from Vancouver,
right down the street,
came to the US in the early 2000s and said, hey, we've got this great junk business that I started in college, and we think we can franchise it. And everyone's like, you're crazy. You're going to franchise junk. No one's going to pay for that. And what ended up happening is he got enough critical mass after about 5-6 years to then go and target national accounts. Mm-hmm. And when he targeted national accounts, there wasn't anyone competing with him. Two men in a truck didn't, or 2 men in a junk truck didn't exist. College hunks hauling junk didn't exist. Junk luggers didn't exist. Junk King didn't exist. And so what ended up happening is in 23 years, he built a system that does $760 million in system-wide sales, which if you use the multiples of franchising, like that's $1 billion company. And I don't think it was like there was no special proprietary way to like pick up junk. Like he was just, we have a wrapped vehicle and we show up on time and we answer the phone. And everyone was like, great.
We're professional. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone was like, great.
Got junk. Like
it was very clear.
It
was very clear.
Yeah.
And he was first, right?
That's
Which if you're first to market, you can capture enough market share to where if you go really fast, you can make it damn near impossible for someone to ever catch up to you. And he's a perfect case study of that. If you take College Hunks and all those other brands I mentioned, and you combine the system-wide sales of all of them, 1-800-GOT-JUNK is bigger than all of them combined.
Yeah, and he's got 2 or 3 other brands where he's tried something similar.
He has.
In his portfolio,
he has.
Right?
Yeah, so he has Wow One Day Painting.
That's right.
And then he has Shack Shine.
Shack Shine. That's the one.
And they're fine businesses. They are not 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Agreed.
And that's okay. But like my thought is if I can just go all in. So like Rolling Suds is in the same exact position as 1-800-GOT-JUNK was in the early 2000s. There's no sophistication. Private equity is not rolling up $300,000 a year power washing companies. There's only a handful of companies doing over $3 million nationwide, and they're largely focused on residential power washing, by and large. And so we are the first kind of sophisticated player in the space. We have first mover advantage in an industry that everyone knows you need buildings cleaned. And so I think a lot of franchisees are like, wait, I see this. I see where this is going. The commercial side of this is recurring most of the time. And so I want to get in. And so we've been fortunate to attract very high level operators. Like 30% of our franchisees that are operating are former C-level executives.
Nice.
And like they're not coming in power washing buildings. They have to hire a general manager in training and a junior technician before they go to training. And we're approaching it by trying to help people build businesses that become assets, not jobs. And that is a far and wide difference than the rest of the power washing industry. And so I think we're going to win as a result, or we are winning as a result.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, it's
So-
one of the Vancouver success stories is the 1-800-GOT-JUNK. So most of us here are like pretty familiar with them in the business. If you're in business,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, he had a great idea. He did something totally random. He didn't know what he was doing. And, I listened to a podcast. Brian Beers is a friend of mine. I'm not sure if you follow him,
Yeah.
but Brian so on his Business with Beers podcast, he had one of the first franchisees from 1-800-GOT-JUNK on his podcast.
Okay.
This franchisee does $100 million a year
Holy schmoly.
with his local. He has 10 markets with 1,000 employees, and he
It's
does
incredible.
$100 million.
Yeah.
And there are multiple 20 million, 15 million, 30 million, and these are franchisees that just took a chance on some junk business early 2000s and said, yeah, I'll do this. And they didn't really have, I listened to that podcast and he's like, we really didn't have any systems till like year 6 is what he was saying. He's like, we didn't really have any systems
just
till
had the
year
brand.
6.
Yeah.
We just had a route.
That's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
When you even go back, I remember when I was a kid, I lived in like the burbs and worked at McDonald's,
Yeah.
as a lot of us do when we're young. And the person who owned our McDonald's owned 3 in the city beside us and 1 or 2 others. And he had his company, like I think it was Paul Rose something, and that business owned like 3 or 4 McDonald's. That guy probably printed cash, but you would never think to look up who he was or what he did, because you just looked at it as, well, we have a McDonald's. That's not, oh, there's a franchise person who owns 4 of those. Wow, that guy's probably doing really well in life.
So the fun fact for you, the average McDonald's owner is worth $22 million.
Yeah, you see where yeah, so he did well.
So the average owner, and it's because the average owner has 18 locations.
Yeah, once they
So
start
you can't
keep going.
Yeah, and so you can't even, as a new person, buy into McDonald's because there's so many franchisees that will just buy up those other locations.
Beautiful.
And to your point, your average person who drives by McDonald's is thinking, oh, this big corporate company with McDonald's, like the McDonald's owner must be really rich. And it's like, that's a franchise owner. Like that is a local person generally that's going to be local to that market, that owns those stores, that is running a local business. And that is what people don't understand about franchising at large, is that it's local business with the kind of corporate support, right? Like that's the benefit. So, well, Clint, this has been an awesome conversation.
That was fun.
I've really enjoyed it. I want to get your number and call you and talk to you because we have so many similar thought processes around this. So we should absolutely stay in touch. For anyone who might want to learn more about the company that you have, plus like follow you online or maybe get some of your resources, for anyone who's listening, where can they find you?
Yeah, top spot, Twitter. I am Clint Murphy. I post there less and less. I mean, Aaron, I think you get it when you start when you get into social media. People don't realize how much time and effort it actually takes to grow on it. And when you start a business, I may have time, but the mental energy once I'm done the workday is just not there for social. So I've largely stopped. So it would be frame.properties or thegrowth.guide. Those are
cool.
Those are the 3. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Clint, thank you so much for coming on the Scaling Podcast, and we'll continue talking and talk again soon.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.